Hey folks, I'm Rick Dollar and I'm the Executive Director of the Mountain Music Museum in downtown Kingsport, Tennessee. We're proudly unveiling the Roy Acuff Fiddle and exhibit today, May the 1st, 2018. This was a fiddle that Roy actually played and was instrumental in helping construct. And it's a beautiful, beautiful artifact that you need to come by and see us and check out this just wonderful piece of history. Of course, when you come to the Mountain Music Museum, probably one of the first things you're going to want to see is June Carter's dress that we have in the tall display cabinet here in the very back, and it just will knock your eyes out, and also gives you the impression that June was kind of rather short. So it was a nice piece of history also. Now, if you'll look over to the right, this is the original pick and porch that was constructed 19 years ago for the Bristol Mall sessions, and the show originated there. And of course, on the pick and porch there, you have A.P. Carter's Coke machine. They used to sell Coca-Colas out of that on the front of his store. So that's a great piece of history also. Just a lot of things that happen here at the Mountain Music Museum and to happen in the future. Follow me and we'll head down this way, and I'll give you a brief walkthrough on what we have to offer. So come with me. Some of the incredible pieces of history that we have here are living pieces of history. Mr. Papa Joe Smitty worked at UVA-Wise for most of his life and was a huge part of what music in Southwest Virginia is all about. We have his exhibit here that actually this exhibit originated from the first time that the museum opened in the Bristol Mall, and actually we had Larry Sparks there that day also. Want to try to give Larry a little shout out there. And if you pan over this way, we're looking at the Bill Monroe autographed hat that we do have on display here. It's a very coveted piece of and I'm not going to say that I haven't tried to put it on before. So, some incredible pieces of history, like I said before. Ronnie Stoneman and the Stoneman family. They sent these great pieces of history. These dresses are incredible. These are actually dresses that they wore on the Grand Ole Opry, the Hee Haw TV show, which a lot of you may remember from years back, and I remember from being a little short guy. But a lot of history right here. Actual boots, picks, and the dresses that they wore. So those are other very nice pieces that you need to come by and see. Another great name in the Mountain Music Museum is Larry Sparks and the Lonesome Ramblers. Still a very popular act today. Check any festival in the United States and you're probably going to see that Larry's going to be there with his guys that he's kept, most of those guys, his entire career. So this is a piece of what Larry wants to be remembered as, and this one will probably be updated very soon. So just kind of keep that quiet. One of the most popular exhibits we had was actually put together the day of our grand opening, I guess you would call it, our rebirth in downtown Kingsport, and that was a Dr. Ralph Stanley exhibit. Of course, we also had some of these artifacts to begin with, but Ralph Stanley II, God bless him, brought us the original cowboy hat that you saw Doc wear on a lot of album covers and in a lot of pictures, and an original shirt that he performed in. But Carter and Ralph Stanley were a huge part of what this museum's all about, and we're very lucky to have just a few artifacts to make their career part of what we're doing here at the Mountain Music Museum. One of the most intricate parts of the ACMA, the Mountain Music Museum, and the Pick and Porch Show is the volunteers. We have some that have been with us over 20 years. How long have you been with us, Johnny?
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years. Expect that answer out of him every time. John Necessary has done a lot. He does a lot with the Carter Fold at the Hill.
Over there this past week.
Yeah. So what's the most important thing about being a volunteer with the ACMA?
Well, I think you get, you see the history, and you can maybe look at him. You see the history, and it's got a whole lot of artifacts, and it's real stuff that we have here. And anytime you go to a museum, that's what you like to see.
Yeah, actual artifacts, not something that's kind of been manufactured.
Yeah.
I mean, like this Ralph Blizzard display. There's things in here, man, that actually the Blizzard family has approached us to do something for him on his 100th birthday. So this year we're going to have a lot of their family members in the museum, and then of course on the Pick and Port show stage up here. So that ought to be a good time. But long story short, we have a lot of people that do a lot of hard work here, and we need to always remember that these people are more important than we are. Now, this artifact that we have represents I think the good things that Andy Griffith and Don Knotts and all those guys stood for so many years. There's a Andy Griffith Martin guitar in there, which is a limited edition Martin guitar, and of course representing Don Knotts, of course you have the hat. But this is just one of the few things in the museum that really hits home, I think, about what we're all about. Family, people coming in, enjoying themselves at the Pick and Port show, and just making things fun and having a nice time when you're here. I found this fella kind of milling about in the museum, and I had to ask him what his name was, and he said it was Acuff. But that's a lie. He said his name was Acuff. Right, Gordon?
Right, it's Acuff.
Gordon Acuff. Now, Gordon, how do you fit into this whole story of this incredible piece of history?
Well, my grandfather made that.
So your
fiddle.
grandfather was Everett Acuff?
Everett Acuff was
Wow.
my grandfather, and he made that fiddle right there. That's number 19. I think it was made in 1945 or 45. Yeah,
I read up on it.
Yeah. Well, I have a list, that he made, and I couldn't remember. I think the next one he made, my dad had. After that, yeah.
But what does it mean to have the fiddle on display in a museum somewhere?
That's great. The first time I saw it, though, Roy Acuff had a museum in Gatlinburg.
Right.
I was about 10 years old, and then it got lost in all that shuffle somewhere.
Exactly.
It made the news.
But just look at this big, huge circle we've made here in time, and then come back and you're in the Mountain Music Museum, and there's the fiddle. So what does that feel like?
My grandfather would be so proud that one of his fiddles was in a museum. He was proud that Roy had one of his. He always was, He would say, well, he always called this fiddle the apple tree. Yeah, because it's made out of apple, and he cut the tree down and everything that he made the wood, got the wood out of. But he would probably be more proud that it was his, and now it's in a museum that everybody can see what kind of, work that he could do. The finish is getting pretty, a little bit rough on it and everything. It looked a lot better than that new, but he could really, my grandfather could do anything with his hands. He could. And he would be, I'm proud for him, really.
Well, we're proud to have you here today. Thank you very much. We're going to unveil this thing in a little while. We're going to let you get up front in front of all the city officials of Kingsport, Tennessee, and give them a good story. One story.
Okay, just one. There ain't nobody there.
Gordon, you have to say that.
Nobody from the local law or anything be there with us.
No, nothing I'm aware of.
I'll be fine.
But we do have a lawyer on staff here.
Yeah, but Howie said he could get me out of anything.
Howie Acuff is here, so he can maybe he can get us some bail money. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe he can get us out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Gordon, thank you, buddy. Thanks for
You're
coming
welcome.
here. We're very happy to have you here, and it's going to be a great day. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. But thanks for coming, and we're going to go ahead and let everybody know that this fiddle was built in 1945 in Maryville, Tennessee. It was number 19 of how many, Gordon? 36? 36. So this fiddle was played on the second tour of the Grand Ole Opry and was played by Roy many times. So it's a great piece of history, and it's a good day for the Mountain Music Museum in Kingsport, Tennessee, and we're very happy to be here. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Mr. Gordon Acuff.
Oh God, I'm scared. No, not really. Howie wanted me to tell you a little bit about Roy. I wasn't around him much because of the age difference. My dad was around him much more than I was, but I was around him like 4 times in my life. 3 of the times I was just a kid, but my wife and I, we got to go to the Opry and sit in his dressing room and just, you know, really see. I'll tell you, you could tell more about from him what way he was, from his demeanor, than really what he said. He was just as common as an old shoe. He never really changed from what he was growing up, or when he was just Roy Acuff and nobody knew who he was. See, he was, my grandfather that made the fiddle was 16 years older than Roy, so he remembered him just being, yeah, that's Roy. But Roy, a lot of people think that he went off to Nashville, he was a great success, and he wasn't. For a long time he struggled, but he wouldn't work a job. He hated daytime jobs. He worked at Southern Railway in Knoxville for just a little while as a call boy. That's back in the days before loudspeakers, and he'd go and rent a train, so-and-so, you know. He didn't do that very long. He went up north and worked in the car factory half a day and said, I'm going to the house. And he was done. Then he got to come home, and when he got to playing music, and he wouldn't work a job, and he said his biggest regret was that his dad never really saw what he accomplished, because his dad died long before he was famous. And Roy liked to get out and about. He fought like a circle saw, they said, what my dad always said, at the drop of a hat, anybody ready to go, he'd square off. Never anybody smaller than him. Usually his opponents were all bigger than him, but if they run their mouth, he said, while they was running their mouth, I done had them hit, and they didn't know where it come from. But well, I was going to tell you what Howie was wanting me to tell. His dad was really worried about him, Uncle Neil, and he says, Roy, he says, if you don't stop all this drinking and carousing, you're going to end up in the penitentiary. See, his dad was a General Sessions judge and a preacher. And Roy was out drinking and running after the girls all the time, you know. So he says, if you don't stop all this drinking and carousing, you're going to end up in the penitentiary. And he looks at him just as serious as a heart attack, and he says, Dad, I can't think of a better reason to go to the penitentiary than drinking and carousing. He had a real good sense of humor, but you could tell when he said something, like I said, he was common. You could always tell he didn't play around. He meant what he said, and if Roy Acuff said something, you really didn't need a contract. He helped probably more musicians in Nashville than anybody down there. If he thought he got the Wilburn brothers started, Randy Travis didn't listen to what he said. He told Randy, he said, Randy, always remember where you come from and who put you here. He didn't remember that. But that's how he was, Roy Acuff. He went to Vietnam many more times than Bob Hope ever thought about going. The troops all over there loved to see Roy Acuff come, because he was one of them. They felt like he just fit right in. I don't know a lot of other things, Harry. I mean, how much you want me to go on with this stuff here?
Tell me about the fiddle.
The fiddle itself, my grandfather, like he said, made. It came out of my grandfather took the wood for the fiddle. It's made out of an apple tree. Now the tops of them are all spruce pine, but the sides and the back on a violin or any stringed instrument is made out of hardwood. And the tree came out of my grandfather's brother-in-law and sister's yard. They wanted rid of this apple tree, and he said, I'll cut it for you if I can have the wood out of it. And so he sawed the tree down and sawed a log out of it and had it, sawed up into boards and let it cure for I don't really know how long, but it takes a long time. You can't just go cut one green and everything. It takes years just to let the wood cure out. And when it got cured good enough, he decided, it was in the, I think, the 30s or so that he cut the tree, and the fiddle was made in 45. But that's where that particular, how it came about. And Roy just, I wanted one of his fiddles, and so my grandfather and my dad and all of them, they went down. Roy was living at he had a cave down there, and I can't, Dunbar Cave, that's right. He was living at the Dunbar Cave, and they went down there, and I think Grandpa took two that they didn't pick from, and he picked that one. The best I remember my dad telling me. I wasn't around, that was before I was around. I went to the Dunbar Cave one time, and his mother was living there, Roy's mother was. They called her first name was Ida, and what we called her. She was heavy set and gray-headed, but she was one of the nicest little old granny ladies that you ever met in your life. You never would know that her son was the king of country music. She would just, my dad rode up, she knew exactly who he was, you know, and that was Aunt Ida. They were all that way, I reckon. Anybody got any questions or anything they want to ask me? Everybody's bashful.
You did a very good job.
Am I done? Did you get your money's worth? Huh? Did you get your money's worth? I hope you did, because you don't pay in a while.
All right. Now we're going to bring up. Now Howie's in the family by how, marriage?
No, I'm an Acuff. But
You're one of the original guys, aren't you? Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Howie Acuff.
I'm part of the family that can't carry a tune or an instrument. Actually, I take that back. I carry a lot of instruments. Gordon's daddy, Charlie, hugged my neck a few years ago at Shaking Off Winter in Lebanon because I brought a reed to the family. And the Reeds are a fiddling family out of Virginia. So he was grateful that I finally brought some music back into the Acuff fold, because we didn't bring any of our own, unlike Gordon's side of the family. I was privileged to be asked to kind of make the connections in this, because being an Acuff, you know, we're all cousins at some point or another, and we try to find out where each other are and stay connected to some degree. And the funniest part of all is his first cousin is 15 miles from where I live, and I didn't know where he fit in the family until I started trying to make the connections related to the fiddle again. So God has a funny sense of humor, but as Gordon told you, as the family goes, it's a proud moment to have that piece of art, that piece of craftsmanship back there. Because, I mean, Roy was the famous one, but there was a heck of a lot of talent in the family. Also a bunch of judges and preachers along the way too, so they're an interesting lot. But as you hear the stories and as you look at the work, pick his brain. He knows far more of the stories than I do. I was just privileged to be kind of a linchpin in all of this. But on behalf of the broader family, we're so tickled to have this here.
Thank you. All right. Wow. I feel like I know the family already. You know? We all know that business these days requires sponsors. People that can help you keep the lights on, and with our move to Kingsport, we have learned that in a big way. Nothing's free, but we're going to make this museum roll with a lot of new and interesting artifacts and displays and exhibits over the next however many years we're here. So I want to bring up Beverly Bowling from Horizon Credit Union. She is the sponsor of this exhibit. Everybody give her a hand.
Hello, I'd like to welcome everyone to the exhibit of the Acuff Fiddle and give you a little bit of information about Horizon Credit Union. Horizon Credit Union turned 85 years old this year, and we started out being the credit union serving the city of Kingsport, and we merged a couple of credit unions in, and last year we changed our name to Horizon Credit Union, and we now have 4 branches. And the reason that we're so interested in helping our community is that we have from NCUA a low income designation, and then from the U.S. Treasury we're designated as a community development credit union. And to put all of that into terms, what it means is that we're very committed to the people who live in our community and to helping our community thrive by supporting other nonprofits. We have 4 locations. We have a branch in Churchill and one in Mount Carmel. We have a branch right over between Pals and Chefs downtown, and then we have a branch out near Food City on Eastman Road. And I would just like to let everyone know that we're very interested in our sponsorship with the Mountain Museum. We are going to announce very soon that we're going to be partners. And if you can't join Horizon Credit Union by any kind of employee group, then you can come and join Horizon Credit Union and support the Mountain Music Museum through your membership, and we'll make a donation in your name. So that's just a little way of how we're trying to give back to our community, and we really enjoy that this is going to be here in Kingsport and that we have something to do on Thursday nights and look forward to it. Thank you.
Good job. Wow. And it's good to know that there's so many people in Kingsport that think a lot about the history of music and the history of where music came from in their area. So at this time, I guess we're all gonna get up and we'll go back to the display and we'll do the unveiling. We'll do the exciting part. So. 1, 2, 3.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Huh?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Roy Acuff Fiddle.
Who's the owner of it?
What do you think about that?
Made by Everett.
Made by Everett. What are you thinking about this fiddle right now?
Who made it?
Yeah.
What am I thinking?
He'll tell you in a minute.
I'm thinking my granddaddy made it, and I'm proud that he had it. But
Good job.
you know, Roy Acuff played on it too. He was
Yeah.
the king. And he would balance on a fiddle on his chin on a bow. He put the bow up,
See, I knew
balance it, and then turn the fiddle upside down and balance it.
I knew we should have done something
On the
before we
stage,
did
always.
that,
It was
man.
one of his trademark things besides his yo-yo. He did yo-yo tricks
If we
too.
pulled it out, could you bounce it on?
No, I couldn't balance it in
Come
my
on.
hands. Probably I might have, but don't do that.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Watch, you gonna pull it over here?
We're good.
No?
Yeah. We've got a, yeah, we're
Working without a napkin.
Now, Howie and I didn't break it, y'all did.
It belongs to,
It's weird for an Acuff to be blameless, but
actually, the fiddle itself belongs to Mr. Lamar Peak from Kansas City, Missouri. If you'll remember, back about January, you heard that this fiddle was on Goodwill's website under auction, which was a crazy surprise to Mr. Peak. He had a little medical issue, and his daughter came over one day and said, "I'm so proud of you for donating this fiddle to Goodwill." And he said, "I don't know what you're talking about." So after a few calls and talks with the people at Goodwill Industries, they came to an agreement, and an anonymous donor gave $8,000. At that time, they were right at $9,000 on the auction, by the way. And then Lamar wrote a $1,000 check out of his pocket to get it back. But at that point, I think Lamar really figured that Bobby Peak, his brother, meant for this thing to go toward education, and it needed to be seen by a lot of people and not just sitting in somebody's closet for the rest of its normal life. So, and we walked in the door and said, "How would you like to put that in the Mountain Music Museum in Kingsport, Tennessee?" And within an hour, Mr. Peak had agreed to do so. And it's this long journey has brought us all the way around to meeting all these great people that are involved, Howie and Gordon and Shirley, his wife, and everybody that has been involved with this journey has helped us grow as a museum, because now we're going to go forward and Actually, I'll kind of just let this out. We're going to be redoing the Tennessee Ernie Ford display within the next 3 to 4 months with some help from the family. And they're ecstatic about this. We've gotten press coverage from all over the world because of this. We were actually in 17 newspapers 4 days ago. The New York Times, New York Daily News, the Washington Post, you name it, we were in there. So, good thing is everybody knows what the Mountain Music Museum's all about, and maybe they'll come by and visit. That's what we're hoping. So, thanks everybody for showing up. Beverly, thank you for sponsoring the display for the year. Gordon, just thanks for being Gordon. I just love you, man.
See, you need to listen to this.
Well, anyway, it's a long ride home. Remember that. Howie, thanks for showing up. There'll be availability for pictures with the display. Whatever you guys need for us to do, just let us know. But thanks for showing up.